Rabbi Wernick.
Hello, how is everyone going?
Hashem.
Good. Okay, so we are Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the abridged code of Jewish law, chapter 98, and we're up to number 2. So yesterday we said that in concept, any malacha, any creative activity that we can't do on Shabbos, we also can't do on Yom Tov. However, we said there's an exception. The exception is Eichel Nefesh, a malacha that is for food, for the sake of food. So we can cook, we can bake, we can knead, and various things. We can shecht if we need to. And then we said, once it's allowed for Eichel Nefesh, for the sake of food, then it's allowed for any other Yom Tov need. So, where there's no Erev, and Shabbos you can't carry, but Yom Tov you can carry for food. So, you're allowed to carry food from one place to another place. So, therefore, you can carry for other Yom Tov needs. Now, I can carry my machzor, my siddur, my Leuven Esrog, my house keys, things that I need for Yom Tov. But we're going to limit it a little bit. So what we're going to start saying is that when we say you can do anything but food for Yom Tov, has to be something that couldn't have been just as well before Yom Tov. So without taking away from what we're going to say soon, but in number 3, which we're not up to yet, we're going to distinguish between the certain spices that if you grind them the day before or a few days before, they start to lose their sharpness, they lose the flavor. And then there's certain things that if you grind it, a few days beforehand, doesn't make a difference. So we're going to say grinding, which is one of the malachas, one of the prohibited activities. So if it's something that it's going to, if you grind it before Yom Tov, it's going to lose the flavor is going to dissipate, so you can grind them on Yom Tov. But if it's something that could be ground, made just as well beforehand, then you can't do it on Yom Tov. I'm going to start over the next few laws, start to define what we actually can do and what we actually can't do. So number 2. Well, actually, before we start, any questions on that introduction, that review from yesterday?
Does it say anything about the name of the spices that you're allowed to grind or not allowed to grind?
It does give 1 or 2 examples, like speaks about like horseradish and different things. But I think at the end of the day, whatever works. I mean, I'm not a spice connoisseur, but I think whatever you find is not. I mean, today also we keep things in airtight containers. We have these nice containers, even though we pretty much buy ground. We don't normally.
The only reason I'm asking,
spices.
Rabbi, the only reason I'm asking is that I grind my nutmeg fresh. I don't buy it. I grind it fresh if I'm going to use nutmeg. Okay, so am I allowed to do that? Well,
I'll be honest. I wouldn't know the difference between ground and freshly ground and old ground nutmeg, but presume that if there is a difference in flavor, if you grind it one day beforehand or immediately before, then you would be able to grind it on Yom Tov. Okay. So base number 2. Ein oisim gewinner b'Yom Tov. You can't make cheese on Yom Tov. Now, this cheese, by the way, we're not talking about cheddar cheese, mozzarella cheese, which has to age for a few months, because that for sure you can't make it on Yom Tov because it's not going to be ready on Yom Tov. But we mean like like the soft cheeses that you could make in a day or so. And you can't make butter on Yom Tov. So in other words, these things you can make just as well. There's no difference between 2-day-old butter and 1-day-old butter. Not that I would know, because by the time I get it from the supermarket, it's probably 3 months old anyway. But seemingly, that's not a problem either. Okay. You also can't put milk into the animal's stomach or something else Shiksbas Hachalov the kafe in order to make it congeal. In other words, you can't kickstart it. Start the cheese, fermenting is not the right word, but it starts to curdle. You put something in it to make it become cheese. Right, so they used to put it in the stomach of the animal, right? Not in the upper part of the stomach, because this food, but where the food is like starting to rot, it's got the acid. Sounds very delicious, doesn't it?
It was rennet.
Yes, rennet. That's what we're looking for. So they used to use things from the animal stomach for the rennet. Today you can buy artificial ones.
The animal stomach is meat.
Well, not necessarily. So again, I got to tell you, when we all graduate all the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch and we'll start our Smicha Rabbinical Ordination course, there is a whole chapter in Shulchan Aruch actually on this topic, right? And the truth is, even not for rabbinical ordination, it's probably worth learning the laws of milk and meat well. Anyway, but the bottom line is that or they take something out from it. It's depends how long you leave it there. Depends. It's actually considered like a waste, not a waste part, not actual meat. So we'll get there.
But there is a word here, smeten. Smeten, my mother used to call sour cream. She used to call smetana.
Yeah, so we're going to get to that. That's what we're up to. You also can't skim the cream off the milk, right? That's what the smeten is, when you sort of skim it. Now, I don't think most of us, at least not recently, probably haven't got our milk directly from a cow and started skimming cream off to make our butter and various things.
We did for a long time.
Yeah. We get our milk with even the so-called full cream milk, has about 90% of the cream taken out, because they've used it for other products. But you can't skim it. So even though you might want to take cream for something, you want to put cream on your apple pie or something, or in your coffee.
That was the tastiest part of the milk when you boil the fresh milk.
So to do that, to take it off, when you skim it off on the spoon, you have to take a little bit of the milk with it. You can't just take the cream. You have to take a little bit. You have to leave a little bit of the cream on the milk. And Kamei b'Shabbos, this is the same way that we do it on Shabbos. V'gamzeh, and also with this, even what you can take is what you're going to use that day. Right? You can't start separating the cream from your milk, because you've got a house cow and she just gave you 20 gallons of milk. Okay, you wouldn't get that from one cow, but whatever. And now you want to start separating your cream and everything. Only what you're going to use on that day you can separate. But if you're doing any of this for tomorrow, and those for after Yom Tov, also you're not allowed to. Mishum hachana. This is because of preparation. You can't prepare on Yom Tov for after Yom Tov. Yom Tov is holier, and so therefore you can't take this holy day and prepare for something that's less holy. However, ve'im chayshish lehefsid. Now, if you're worried it's going to spoil. Remember, people didn't have fridges when this was written. Today, you put in the fridge and it should be right till tomorrow, no problems. But if you was going to spoil, you could ask a non-Jew to separate it for you. Right? So again, let's just go back, because those of us those who were with us when we learned the laws of Shabbos, so we've got some people that have joined or different things. So we said like this. Let's go back to Shabbos, and then we'll apply it to Yom Tov. The truth is, it's the same thing. technically, a Jew is commanded to keep Shabbos, and non-Jews are not commanded to keep Shabbos. Not only they're not commanded to keep Shabbos, they're not allowed to keep Shabbos. Right? By the way, not only they can't keep Shabbos, they can't even keep Shabbos on a different day of the week if they keep it like we keep Shabbos. Right? So that's number one. So technically, I could have a non-Jew do everything for me. Right? The problem is, if we do that, then although we may technically be keeping Shabbos, but we're not keeping the spirit of Shabbos. It's not what Shabbos is for. So if I would have, a non-Jew, turn my lights on and off, put my oven on and off, turn the television on and off, take my car to the mechanic, go to the store, buy me a newspaper, whatever it is, then although I might technically be keeping Shabbos, it's certainly not the spirit of Shabbos. So the sages decreed that we cannot ask a non-Jew to do things for us on Shabbos. And this is Yom Tov as well. Of course, when they decreed this, they made certain exceptions, as we discussed when we learned in Shabbos. So, for example, for a sick person, right? For a sick person, they never made the decree. So if the sick person needs the light off to be able to sleep because they're not feeling well, or now they need the light on, we can ask a non-Jew to do these things for a person who's not well. Now, sick doesn't mean they've got a little bit of runny nose. It means someone who has to be in bed. They're bedridden. The needs of the community. So I can ask, if the lights didn't go on the shul, I can ask someone to turn on lights in the shul. Heat and cold are considered like a sick person, right? So if they need someone to put on the heat, or in very hot climates to put on the air conditioning, these types of things, the heat and cold is considered the same as a person who's unwell. And one of the other exceptions that we have over here is here that there's going to be a loss, right? Because you have all this milk and this cream, and if you don't separate it, it's going to spoil. The cream, once it's separated, will keep. Longer you can become butter or whatever it is going to be. So we can ask a non-Jew to do something for us in order not to suffer a financial loss. So that's now this doesn't mean you can run the store or different things, because that's not a loss, just by the way. Let me define what a loss is. A loss is I have it right now. So if I don't take the cream, it will spoil. So I'm losing what I have right now. When to open a store and earn money, that's not a loss because I didn't have that money yet. Right? So the type of loss we're speaking about is a loss of something I already have, not a loss of potential earnings. Right? That's not considered a loss. For anything we're going to discuss, we make leniencies for a financial loss or a great loss. It's always talking about something that already exists. I'll give another example, and we won't get up to there for a while, but just to help understand the concept. So let's say Chol HaMoed, on the intermediate days of Yom Tov, we're even more lenient if there's a loss. So I'll give an example of a loss. Let's say a person, God forbid, the pipe breaks and the place is going to flood. Right? So if you don't fix it, it's going to ruin, it's going to destroy what things that you have already, God forbid, not us, someone else, or whatever, right? So that is an actual loss, it's something that someone already has. While if someone gets offered someone says, do this job and I'll give you $500, turning that down is not a loss because you never had the $500. You're not losing anything. You might miss out on getting something, but you're not actually losing something. So it's very important over here not to take it out of context. Here, when we say we can do this for the non-Jew, well, there's a loss, it's something we already have, and it's going to spoil if we don't do something to it. And the non-Jew's allowed to do it. So we can ask him or her. Right? That's okay. This is fundamentally different to not earning something. Right. Any questions on that? But yeah.
Yeah. What's the meaning of the word liklot?
Where was it? Oh, look like this is have it skimmed off. Sort of skim it off. So it comes from to like gather, I think, but it's almost skimming off the cream.
Thank you.
Okay, Gimel, number 3. Tavlin, spices. So now we get to the nutmeg. Right, these are the spices. I was thinking pepper, but nutmeg I think sounds better than, Shem Yitchan Oisam Koyin Yontiv. Now, if they're the type that if you grind them before Yontiv, Yafigel Taman, they're going to lose some of the flavor. They're going to lose their flavor. The Mutter Leducham B'Yontiv Aydei Shinoi. You're allowed to grind it on Yontiv, but you should do it in a slightly different way. You should do a Shinoi. I should do it differently. Kagoin is going to give an example. So we're doing an unconventional way. Going for an example. Shiate es a machteshes l'stodin. Right, so they used to use, the mortar. You have a little bowl and you use the mortar. So instead of doing it straight, do it sideways. Hey, no, it's like a little, looks like a drumstick, like a pulka, and you put it, you grind the spices.
To form it
mortar and pestle.
Pestle, yeah, mortar and pestle. So by putting it on its side, it's not as efficient, but you're doing it with a shino, you're doing a slightly different way, so it reminds you that it's yontiv. So it doesn't look like we're doing. So here's, because of rabbinical concern, we don't want to make it look like we're doing weekday activities. So we do it a little bit different. Or another example, you grind it, you pound it on the table instead of doing it in that little pestle thing. You do it with a mortar. You do it on the table. So we have in the past made on matzah meal, right? So on Yontiv, so we put some matzah in a like a snap lock, so it doesn't fly everywhere, and you start pounding the bag. Start punching it, right? And it grinds up. Yes.
How is any of that really going to change anything?
Okay, that's an excellent question. So even some of the things that we're allowed to do, right? And even things you're allowed to do, we don't. Okay, so there are things that we could do technically, right? But then if we just start doing all these things in the usual way, it looks like that we're just carrying on business as usual. So in other words, it looks like a weekday. So by doing things in an unusual manner, even though in the end of the day it gets ground and you're achieving the same thing, but by doing it in an unusual manner, it's not like your normal day-to-day way of doing things. It doesn't look like we're turning Yontiv into a weekday.
So you're making it special. In other words, you're doing something, you're accomplishing something, but in a special way.
Yeah, an unconventional way, yeah.
That's right. So you keep the holiday. So you keep...
Yeah, I mean, so it is like, now, just let's see if we go back a step.
We learned the same thing about Shabbat.
Right, Shabbos a little bit, that's what I was going to say. We'll go back a step and talk about Shabbos. And that's another point, is that from a Torah perspective, a malacha has to be done in a usual manner. So let's say, for example, carrying in the public domain where there's no Erev. So carrying in a normal manner means you carry it in your hand or your pocket, something like that. If you would stick a pen in your beard, and you walk around like that, that's not the normal manner. So that's not the just by the way, when I was in yeshiva, there was a competition who could put the most pens in their beard. and the winner got 37 or something like that, something ridiculous. I didn't participate, but I did have a good fun watching. But anyway, we'll leave that aside. The pastimes of yeshiva students, yeshiva bakrim. It's not to get off track, but you see, obviously there are many kids that go to college and they're straight and narrow and they do everything they need to do. But some of the antics that the college kids are famous for getting up to. So yeshiva bakrim, when they got wild, they saw how many pens you could stick in the beard. That was it's a slightly different world. But anyway, that's not a regular way of carrying. Now, it could be for certain things, meaning like this. It could be if all tailors put the little pen that not pen, like a chalk thing that they use to mark, if they always carry that behind their ear, let's say that's the norm. So then that would be considered the norm for carrying that thing. But so there could be certain objects that have an unusual way that's normal for that. But if it's an unusual way, then it's not the technical prohibition. Now, we still can't do it. It's at least rabbinically not allowed. But when we come to a situation where we could, there's another factor of why we could be lenient. If we combine that with the unusual way, then it becomes allowed. So, sorry?
I'm just trying to clarify. Are you saying pens, like writing pens?
Yes.
Or like pins and needles?
Well, yeah, I said a pen like a writing pen, but
okay.
But I guess, pins could also be. Pins and needles is normal tailors put them in their clothes. They used to carry them in their clothes or in their thing.
Right.
So,
I thought it might have been bobby pins.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure which pins you were talking about.
Yeah. So I'm in a pen. So yeah, you have to learn to speak English like an Australian. You'll be much better off. By the way, just in general, it's going to help you in life. That's just
Rabbi.
Yes.
What about your glasses?
So that's considered wearing, not carrying.
Okay. In other words, if they're on top of your head,
that could be a problem. That could be a problem if there's no Erev. Today in most big cities, they have an Erev. But wearing them normally, this is one of the things, by the way, people who have reading glasses or sunglasses we discussed probably shouldn't wear them on Shabbos where there's no Erev, because what happens is sunglasses is the norm. Without thinking, you just take it off and put it in your pocket. And so it can very easily come to carrying, even though the wearing of it is not the issue. So by doing the unusual way, we've minimized, it's not a full malacha anyway, and B, we're making sure that it doesn't look like we're doing weekday activity. We've made it a little bit different. So that's the advantage. V'chein tamcha shegoydem oisel alamorik. So similarly, horseradish, that normally it's grated with use a grater. Lo yigro the soich kaira kadarka b'chol. You don't grate it straight into the dish like you do during the weekday. Ela mappa, you put onto a tablecloth, right, like a cloth of some sort. So in other words, you do something different. The kafir ein litchem b'rechaim, and you shouldn't grind coffee with a grinder, right, on Yom Tov. El yedurcha b'medurcha al yedei shinoi, because we all know that freshly ground coffee is a little bit better, but you should use a pestle, type thing, and again with an unusual way if you need to grind your own coffee.
Let me ask you this question, Rabbi.
Yes.
With coffee,
yep.
Let's assume before Shabbos, I grind a whole bag of coffee with a coffee grinder.
Yep.
And then I put it in a storage I don't want to say a storage area, but I make sure that it's kept fresh, especially in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And obviously, if I have an urn that just before Shabbos, I turn on and the water is hot for 24 hours, let's say. It's a big urn.
Yeah.
And just before Shabbos, I go ahead and I make the coffee.
So you make before Shabbos. So let's coffee. There's a few things. Excuse me. So first of all, coffee. We're talking about now making fresh coffee as opposed to instant coffee, which I think is what you're speaking about now. So that
Correct.
we can't. Yeah. So the fresh coffee we can't make on Shabbos. We can make it on Yom Tov, like the percolator.
But what I'm saying is that for Shabbos, I put it in before Shabbos.
Yeah, to make it before Shabbos is fine. And you keep it hot. So even let's say some of the coffee machines, it keeps it hot. You know, the bottom keeps it hot, and then they go off. Let's say after most of them nowadays go off after a few hours because there are too many fires. Let's say you made it before Shabbos, is no problem. Or if you had some large percolator and it keeps it warm, is also not a problem on Shabbos. So to make the coffee before Shabbos is perfectly fine. To make on Shabbos, so the coffee, the fresh coffee, you need to percolate, or to make like that. We can't make on Shabbos. We can make instant coffee on Shabbos. It's already been cooked. It's but we need to put the water in the cup first. You need to put the water into a cup and then transfer it to another cup. And then we put the coffee in, because things that hot water that comes out of the vessel that had the heat source is still considered being able to cook on Shabbos. And when you pour into another cup, once you poured it, and the walls of the new cup are not hot, so it cools down a little bit, and then you add in the coffee. That's the instant coffee. But on Yom Tov, you can cook, so you can make nice fresh coffee. It's one of the things. I always forget what they call them. A French press, right? The French press coffees do that on Yom Tov. So in Australia, it's called a plunger, right? You don't have toilet plungers in Australia. They've got pipes twice the size. So the French press is called a plunger. So I remember the first time I was here telling people how on Yom Tov we make coffee with a plunger, and they thought I was the most revolting person they've ever met in their life. All right, that's what happens. So you quickly learn
beauty of the English language, English in different countries.
That's
Very
right.
Interesting.
That's right. So, but that's like one of our Yom Tov treats. Normally Shabbos you have instant coffee, and on Shabbos we get to use the French press. The plunger. That's right, the plunger. I mean, that's what it does, right?
I mean, the only reason why I'm asking you this is because I actually happen to be a military chef.
Oh. Okay, and you like your coffee?
I love my coffee, but I want to make sure I do it right if I have to.
Yeah.
Work on Shabbos. Sometimes I do, but of course I don't want to break any laws.
Yeah. Okay.
Other than I have to work on Shabbos.
So yeah. So made before Shabbos is certainly no problem. Let's
no big deal.
We're hitting the hour, but let's just finish the paragraph. So the coffee we can't grind in a grinder. So if you use like a pestle and mortar, but and sideways. I will tell you but it's much better if you do everything before Yom Tov. Now something that's not going to lose the flavor. For sure you have to grind it before Shabbos. It's not going to make any difference for Yom Tov, sorry. You can never grind on Shabbos, right? Even if it does lose the flavor. But Yom Tov, if it's not going to lose the flavor, better do it before Yom Tov. But let's say you forgot, right? It's something that you could have done before Yom Tov and you forgot. Yesh lahata al yadei shinoi. There's those who permit it if you do it in an unusual way. The chol niska eina muta ela mashu tzarich loisayon. But even then, you're only allowed to do what you need for that day. You can't do more. Loila macha, you can't make anything for tomorrow. Yesh lahachmir, and those who are strict. Not, they don't even make what they need for that day. They only make what they need for that meal. So at the night time, they grind what they need for that meal. If they need more for lunch, you grind more at lunchtime. So they're strict and they only do what they actually need for that. The gamba dichas matzah, likewise grinding matzah. Yesh the zabazeh, and we should try and be careful about this and try only to do what we need for that actual meal rather than doing for the whole day at once, because maybe you'll come to not need it and you would have ground for the next day. All right. Any other thoughts, questions?
No.
All right. Well, then we'll wish everyone a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
It's a little early to say good Shabbos, but once a year before Shabbos was said anyway.
Shabbos.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.